Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Ghost Education 101. Hello, Tiffany. Glad to see you again and your little partner in crime down there.
Yep. Malachi, he's right here.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, because he's never not going to be next to me. I was like, we might need to make a segment for him. Some kind of new segment for him.
Actually, we could do a presentation or some type of discussion on pets and the paranormal. I think that would be a fun one
That
down
would
the
be
road.
really cool. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, perfect. Well, today is an exciting day. I believe this is the third year in a row that we have brought our special guest on for Halloween. I don't know if you're excited as I am, but I
am
love this
very
time of year.
excited. Yes.
I always make sure I book him out early because I want to make sure we get him, but he's an amazing guest, some amazing things to talk about. I know one thing I definitely want to talk to him about is last year when I talked to him, he was in the process of composing music for the Bombshell Butcher. And I know we joked about that because I can just see like a Pamela Anderson from the 80s standing there with a leather skirt on. And
I watched that episode.
That was the vibe that it has. And I was like, okay, so I was really looking forward to that. And then we have just some great things that are going on in his life. So I guess we might as well bring him on rather than keep everybody hanging because I'm sure they know who he is by now. But welcome to the show, Blake. Glad to have you on again.
Welcome.
Hi, it's good to see you both. I haven't been on here in a while, so my etiquette is probably a little bit, less than what I desire it to be. So, are we still going on first name basis here?
Is that okay with perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that doctor is very important. The doctor title is very important. So,
yeah, I know.
I'm
Tiffany
very
got her
casual.
doctorate, from the same university or institute that I went to, and it's funny. People will be like, "Oh, hey, Dr. Heather," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I do have a PhD." I seem to still forget that I have it.
I just wanted to make sure, like I said, if you want to be Dr. Leigh and you want to be Dr. Frazier, I will honor that wholeheartedly. So
no, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Totally fine.
Oh, okay. So first name is good then. First name's okay.
First name's perfect.
Okay. All right. It's like let's spend 3 minutes trying to figure out how to address everyone, right?
Oh, no.
I am so sorry. I have been so busy. This is the first week in probably 6.5, 7 months that I have had enough time to sit and think, and it's like I'm not hitting on all the cylinders I want to hit on. So.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I know I just moved cross country or halfway across the country, and Tiffany just moved to another house. So we're all kind of.
Oh, so I'm in good company then. Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't feel so bad.
Don't worry about it.
No. So the one thing I'd mentioned during the intro is the Bombshell Butcher. You had just started talking about that last year, and it came out this year finally.
That's correct. Yes. The nature of these movies is there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Production, making sure the rights are secured to release, all this and that, and then of course, the scoring process, which is really really interesting. A lot of people ask me how I do that. So basically, with the Bombshell Butcher, it's a perfect example. I'll get a segment of film, and there's no music to it. There's dialogue and other things that are necessary, and I base the music off the context of what I'm seeing and like the atmosphere, the mood. So, for instance, if there's going to be a big reveal of something that no one saw coming, then I will have a specific set of music for that probably won't be heard anywhere else in the movie. I like to do multiple scores. It's not uncommon for me to do a two to three dozen for a movie. Not uncommon at all. So it just really depends on what they want, what the budget of the movie is, how long they want the tracks, because there are some where it's like, we need 45 seconds. We need 18 seconds here. We need this. We need that. I'm like, okay. I mean, I like this, the specificity of all of it because it lets me know, the boundaries, because every new film that I join is exactly that. It's a new film. It's a new experience. So the music for the Bombshell Butcher is some that I am extremely proud of. And the movie's on Tubi now. So
okay.
I actually do have a copy on Blu-ray, and this is our Bombshell Butcher. So definitely keeping with the blonde, like Pamela Anderson sensibility that you had spoken about. But so it's really 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 graphic. It's probably one of the darkest movies I've worked on in probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I really like to stay in horror because I grew up with horror. I like it. It's something I feel comfortable with, and there's so many different genres and subgenres. Like
Yes.
slashers, and then there's paranormal stuff, and then there's other kind of things. So there's a lot of room to work, and I play half a dozen instruments. So oftentimes I'm doing a little bit of all those instruments in these scores. So that way more of my personality kind of comes through.
Yeah. And then before, I know we have a long list of questions we want to ask. One thing I just want to get straight before we move on is, do you prefer writing the music, acting, or actually writing the story?
That's not a fair question.
I know I'm asking you to pick your favorite child.
It really depends on the project. I started out as an actor, so I have a lot of respect and understanding of that sensibility, that side of filmmaking. But the music side lets me be a bit more flexible with my schedule, seeing as how I don't necessarily have to be on set for that. Now, producing, it's kind of a mixed bag, as it were. I like to be on set as much as possible, but there are some times where I'm wrapped up in another project where it's just not feasible for me to be there. So I still can attend all the delightful board meetings and discussions about how we're going to shoot this sequence in 30 minutes on, well, how much budget do we have, or what time of the day are we filming this. There's so much going into it. But I recently discovered that He Comes to Kill, which I think you and I had spoken about before.
Yep.
That was my return to cinema in acting form. First role I had taken in probably 7 or 8 years, and it got nominated and won Best New Independent Horror at Tampa Bay Screams Horror Festival. I believe that was last year. So I was like really, really excited that then that character. I do all these conventions, and you will not believe how many pictures, 8x10s, glossies I have to sign of me licking the end of a nightstick. Now I know how that sounds. I know how it sounds, but you have to see the movie to understand. I play an absolute psychopath, and I'm not even the main villain of the story. I kind of set the main villain free, and then lackadaisically kind of just give myself to him. Hey, take me as a sacrifice. I love you and I love what you're doing. And that makes me all the more repulsive. It really was. It was disgusting to see how because I don't usually watch what I do, but I watched that one. And is there a language thing on the show? I want to make sure I don't break it.
Nope.
I
Not
watched
unless
this.
Tiffany has one, but we never had one before.
Did you catch last week's episode?
I did not, but I wanted to make sure. So I was watching this, and I watched it again recently, and I literally sat and I was like, "The fuck was I doing? What is that? That is
Who was
nothing
that?
like me. I am a complete bag of shit. Like I'm sorry, I have to put it that way. I am known to be, and it's not myself saying that because I will never cop to being the nice guy, but I'm always told that I'm a really nice guy and very down to earth and very easy to talk to. But I made all the other actors uncomfortable on this. I made myself uncomfortable on this. I had to do some things, and I was like, they wanted me to be repulsive. So I was like, I took this nightstick and put it in my mouth, and I kind of licked the nightstick. Read into that all you want to. And they rolled the footage. They're like, the director stops. He said, Blake, that is the most repulsive. Like his look. The rest of the actors were like, oh, that was great. That was. Can I get out of here now? It was rough. So it really just depends on the role. I did like returning to the film in that, and like being kind of like one of the main characters. I'm in a whole 15 minutes of a movie, or 12 minutes, however long it was. And then one of my books shows up later, so I was like, haha, it's another little cameo, but yeah, I kind of like doing the movie stuff, like the behind the scenes stuff, and then like writing it. My book Whispers in the Woods, I've had a couple of directors like kind of chomping at the bit to want to make that into a movie, and I just won't let it go yet because I don't know how to feel about it. I had a fan come up to me a few months ago at a convention, and they said that book is the most fucked up thing I've ever read in my life. I live in the woods, and because of you, I don't even want to go outside. And I was like, is that a compliment? I don't know how to take it. I mean,
That's
I'm
a
sorry, but I'm
compliment.
not, And they're like, no, it's amazing. That should be a damn movie, man. And I was like, well, I'll keep that in mind when, the right contract, the right budget, and the right director comes along, then I'll jump on it. But that is probably the most disturbing book I've ever written, and literally nobody makes it out great in that. It is the darkest book I've ever written. and it's not very long either. It's like 76 pages. It's tiny, tiny book,
Oh, wow.
but it's disturbing. And like everybody that's read it says it's like one of their favorites. I'm like, wow, I did not expect that to be a favorite. Not at all. I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought one of the others. I would have, the other 7 or 8 that I've done, would have been a favorite. But I take it where I can get it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I have a question.
Mhm.
Where do you draw your inspiration from, especially with writing?
Y'all are just jumping with all the unfair questions. I like getting that out of the way early, though, getting the hard work done so that I can play and have fun the rest of the time. Uh, I really think that it's a mix. I discovered Edgar Allan Poe very young, and I know lots of
Mhm.
people say that, but the stories that I found first were not the ones most people probably would have found. Like I was really into like the Gold Bug, and then the Fall of the House of Usher, like the tension, the atmosphere, and thinking it's like, well, this would have, this was before this, was pre-film, recorded music type thing. This is just, this was like the form of entertainment people had, and to be able to convey that sense of anxiety and isolation and terror and just the general unease, I think was something really special. Of course, he was a very special kind of guy. But and then of course the Telltale Heart I read later. Cask of Amontillado I read. I read the Murders in the Rue Morgue, stuff like that. And like Mask of the Red Death. Just there's so many different things. So definitely um, Poe, and then Dean Koontz, R.L. Stein. I was born in the '80s, so I was a child of the '90s. So Goosebumps was on my shelf. Fear Street. I had an unhealthy obsession with Nightmare on Elm Street. I come from a broken home, and in between all the arguing and domestic violence and everything going on at home, I discovered that I had, cable TV, and as long as I stayed in my room and kept the door locked and closed, nobody would bother me. So I would turn on TV late at night, and that's how I discovered Nightmare on Elm Street, and then stuff like The Exorcist and The Shining, and just some really really interesting horror films. The Burning, which is from '81. So like I discovered, like, it's like, okay, so I like horror writing, but I like horror, in the media form too, like, as far as film and television. So definitely was kind of a mix of everything like that. And then of course Stephen King was always there. I didn't read a lot of his stuff till I was older. Like a couple of summers ago, I read It for the first time. And that is 1,131 pages of my life I'll never get back. It was a great book, but there were some things I was not ready for in that.
Yeah,
I won't
yeah,
go into what they are.
it's
If you
heavy.
haven't
Yeah.
read it, read it. But it's very much a what the, like, really. You just don't expect it. And of course, like the Green Mile, which technically isn't a horror novel. I mean, it's horrific in its own right, but I really think it was just kind of a mix of everything. And then my situation at home, it's like I look to horror because it's like I thought what I was living was pretty, horrific, but being able to vicariously live through other situations and see it's like, oh well, these, I might be having it rough at home, but at least I'm not trapped in a cabin in the woods with some guy in a mask and a chainsaw trying to bust through the door and kill me. So it could be a hell of a lot worse.
Hmm.
So it was just kind of like putting it into perspective. And I don't know. I just always tell people, don't. It's like when they ask me, it's like, well, what is it like, to go through that and then write this kind of stuff? I consider it therapy, on a lot of levels, because it allows me to get the dark thoughts and that kind of stuff, the off color stuff, like out and about, put out there so that I can move on to the next thing. And I always tell everyone, don't forget your past, own it, but don't let it become your future. Just know it's there, acknowledge it, and do what you need to with that, and just kind of move forward. So horror has always been my way of moving forward. So I always consider myself a child of horror, and especially like when it comes to like writing and stuff in film, '70s, '80s, and '90s kind of horror. I definitely read a lot of Daniel Cohen books, because he did, like, one of my favorite books was Railway Ghosts and Highway Horrors. It was like kind of like an anthology of different horror and like supernatural ghost stories that occurred. And I love that kind of stuff. So when I found out there was, like a community like that that did like ghost hunts and did paranormal things, and like you do, like both of you do with your, with what you study and with your, your PhDs and everything in that specific kind of subject. I really, even today, it kind of, I have so much respect for people in that field because I may not be in it the same way you all are, but I can understand it, and I feel like I'm still a part of it in some way, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, for
yeah.
sure. That
It's a
makes
very
perfect
long-winded answer, I know.
sense. That was great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Of course.
I guess one question that I always bring up, because this is Ghost Education 101, is I
Uh-huh.
know we've talked about you having paranormal experiences on set in the past. Anything new arise since we've talked last?
A couple of things actually. I was filming some dailies on a project for Dark House Entertainment. Again, dailies, for anybody that doesn't know, that's just like kind of like going through doing test footage, B-roll, stuff that may not make the final cut, but just going through and looking at how everything looks and looking over what was filmed that day. And I noticed that like I was somewhere else, like I kept like seeing weird shadows and stuff. And I know that some of it was the lighting on set, but it was just I always feel there's a presence of something. Sometimes it helps me work. When I was doing He Comes to Kill, I was in a castle that was in Maryville, Tennessee, and that's actually where we filmed that. It's like a partially outdoor castle, and I don't know the exact history behind this place, but I definitely felt some stuff there. Like when you watch He Comes to Kill, if you haven't seen it yet, there's some opening sequence shows me moving through, looking at the patients, and kind of being my psychopathic asshole security guard kind of self. And there's a couple of things that you'll see, like the way that it looks, and it's like that the way that that building looked, it really gave me a sense of, "Oh, I don't know, this is uneasy, like there's something with this place." I mean, it didn't affect the work. Certainly filming there got me into the spirit of the movie, and afterwards, this was interesting. It's the first time I've ever had the threat of the police being called on me. Um, I went into a Dairy Queen, as you do, after being on set for 6 or 7 hours in special effects makeup, for my death in that movie, and I was still in makeup, and I was just hungry. Okay, I went with another actor, and we were like, we're gonna go get something to eat. The day's over. We celebrated. We did it. The movie's done. It's gonna be great. We were just kind of like winding down from all the euphoria from being on set, and I walk in, and I smile at the person behind the register, and they immediately took their headset off, went back to where the kitchen is, and then a person came out that wasn't dressed like them, that looked more like a manager, and they were like, "Sir, we're going to call the police. We're going to call an ambulance for you. What can we do for you to help you?" "What are you talking about, calling an ambulance?" Like, "Well, sir, I mean, you look like you've been in an injury. You're bleeding and there's lots of wounds. You have what looks like a black." I said, I'm fine. I just came off set from a movie." At that point, I realized, oh shit, I'm still in makeup.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
I had forgotten, hunger takes you. I don't know if you've ever been that hungry, but there are times that I've been so hungry that I have like completely bypassed everything else in life to go right to the kitchen or, right to wherever I am. And it's like, to hell with everything else. I want to eat. Um, and I was like, I'm fine. And then I pulled the prosthetic, and the guy was like, no, no, no. I said, no, and I pulled it down, and they could see that there was nothing back there. It was just my flesh, and I'm not like cut or anything. To put
Oh,
that in perspective, I had my throat slit in the movie, and they took the knife and they jammed it all the way through my throat to the hilt of the
wow.
blade. So that's why when they saw that, they freaked out. And I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. I just came from set. I was starving. I love your food. Y'all are the closest thing to me. So I came in. And they're like, okay, well, we have a person at the register. And the first thing they did was come right back here to me because they thought, oh, somebody has been in an accident or gotten hurt, and they came in to get help. I said, no, but that means that my makeup crew did a fantastic job then.
That
So,
is true. Yeah, that's
but yeah,
absolutely
that
true.
was a weird experience. But other than that, I haven't had a lot of like like really strange experiences other than the weird shadows, and then that experience, coming from set looking like I got, the hell beat out of me, uh, to go eat. But otherwise, it's been kind of laid back. I've been back to set a couple of times, but nothing at the last couple of sets that I've been on has had anything going on. So it's been kind of light this year, but it's still early. It's still young. The year's still
Still have
pretty
3
young.
months.
So yeah.
That's true.
Philip says he understands your hunger.
Yeah,
Philip,
he's
why do I
always
know that
hungry.
name? Is that Philip? Philip used to be on the show, Philip?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Hey, Philip,
Yeah.
I never got the chance. I feel like it's like Dr. Claw and Inspector Gadget. Like I never see him, or talk to him. I just know he's there, right?
Right. And then real quick before the next question, I forgot to say hello to Anton. He's a
Yes, I
regular
saw
follower of
that.
ours,
Hi,
and it's
Anton.
great to have him here on the show tonight.
Hi,
Thank you for
Hi,
joining, Anton. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi,
Hello,
Sandra. Busy, busy, busy. I love that.
So Blake, I'm an author too. I write paranormal fiction, and it's not unusual to start a story. You're super excited about it, and then most writers, we just get stuck. We're just in this writer's block. And I know for the book I'm working on right now, which is book 4 in my series, I was stuck for about a year. I just couldn't move past this one part, and I finally made my way through it, but I had to have a meeting with my editor. I had to sit her down, and I had to, like, really talk through it. Do you ever find yourself in those situations where you just hit this sticky point, and if you do, like, what do you do to kind of, like, get yourself out of it? Do you have somebody you talk to? Do you have, like, a process that you go through?
That's a really good question. Congratulations on book 4 in your
Oh,
series,
thank
by
you.
the way. That's something to be very proud of. I'm always like excited and happy to see other authors out here sharing their craft, because I have a lot of respect for people that use the written word to draw these beautiful and sometimes disturbing images in your head, and something that won't leave you. So I've got definitely just always excited to see another talent out there sharing their writing craft with everyone else. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But as far as the other part, the writers, yeah, I've experienced that a couple of times. Oddly enough, it was for a book that most people don't associate with it being something that would have taken me very long. I actually had a gap that I took some time off from writing a book. So I started the book in 2005, and then I didn't finish the book until 2021.
Oh,
So it
wow.
took me
Yeah.
16 years to,
Yeah.
and it's called Fathom. It is about the Loch Ness monster. I consider myself a very avid student of cryptozoology, and water-based phenomena, water-based monsters, and sea serpents and lake monsters have always been like a big passion of mine. So I wanted to write a book, something that was rooted in horror about that. And I started it when I was a sophomore in college, and life happened. I took some time off. I signed a record deal. I went on tour with the metal band. I did the whole rock and roll thing, and then I got into acting, and then I went back to school, and then left again when got signed another deal and went back on tour, and then started writing other books. I got pulled into doing Behind the Screams, which is a book on A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, sort of like a nonfiction book on how they made the movie and like the experiences everyone had on it. And then after that, I came back finally over the course of, I want to say, like a month or two, and finished up Fathom and got it put together and got it put out. So it came out in 2021. So it took me 16 years, and it's one of the few books in my repertoire that people are waiting on a sequel for, and I've not done a sequel, mostly because I'm terrified. If it took me 16 years to write the first one, I don't want it to take me 16 years to write the next one. Next Tuesday, I turn 40. So that would put me at being almost 60 if the timeline, if that pattern remains intact. But this is actually like the only copy of it that I have, and like all the rest of the copies, the book has been sold out continuously for about 4.5 years or so. So
Wow.
I've got one, and it's the only one I've got, and it's like I still go back through, and I'm like, if I ever decide to redo this, I'm gonna not put as big a space between those lines and kind of reformat it a bit. But I've just this one is always going to like mean a lot to me because it took the longest to write. So
Yeah.
I think focusing on other projects, maybe taking some time away from it. My wife is a writer, and I talked to her about a lot of different projects. So during that time, I definitely talked with her and kind of let her know this is where I'm at. I'm want to get this done. It's a great story. I believe in it, but it's just taken me so many years because life, you
Yeah.
know, life happens. And she's like, get it, you'll get it done. Don't give up on it, And she's a fantastic writer herself. And it's just like, I have such a good support system. I feel really, really grateful, really blessed to have that because it's like, I always know that she's there to, have my back and listen to what I have to say. And, I do the same for her. And it's like to have a partner in things that understands your mindset, to understand your, where you're going with something and your reasoning, the drive behind it, um, is really good. And then, like I said, focusing on other projects, movies and other books and conventions. Oh my God, the conventions. They keep me busy and traveling year round. So, um, I've got a lot of distractions that are good, so I say find a healthy distraction, whether it's in your partner, your kids, in your music, your pet. I have two cats. I also look to them for inspiration, especially when they're grumpy, which is
Yeah.
not often, but first thing in the morning when they eat their wet food, they're like, I don't want to be talked to right now, and I'm like, I get it,
Hmm.
I get it. I'm not a Mormon person either. Um, I mean, I am, but I'm not. But I feel it the way they do, and um, so it just find a healthy distraction, but don't give up on yourself. Definitely, that's one piece of advice I can offer is if you've come this far, then the story's worth telling.
Yeah.
Believe in it.
I've heard that so many times. And actually, I've said that to some people too. I said, if the story is in you and it's strong enough and it's made you start writing it, then it means you're meant to be telling it.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And whether or not it takes, 16 years, 16 months,
Yep.
whatever the case may be, put it out there. It's good. It's good for you to put your work out there. It's good for you to see how it's going to look because that's going to help you in other ways. Because part of being a writer is also also part of that's being an editor, and looking
Hmm.
over things. And you may want to move a paragraph around somewhere that you were totally happy with a week ago. You may not be
Hmm.
happy with it being there anymore, or you may want to expand on it, make it longer, or add some dialogue or do something. It's like almost like it's like an artist. I imagine an artist with the palette, and the brushes in their canvas. It's like, oh well, I like this, but oh, I'm really tempted to add something else. It's like almost like the work is never done. So I just say stay with it and try to find a good distraction, a healthy distraction, and then just keep moving forward with the project because in my opinion it's definitely if you've devoted that much time to it then it's something that needs to be done and it's going to be therapeutic for you too because it may inspire you to like right out of the gate to go think, okay, well I got this one done, I'm feeling good, let's do another, kind of perpetuate that determination and that excitement and enthusiasm about it. So
Right. Right.
Well, some encouragement to get you to write that sequel. If it makes you feel better, I have a series of books that I started writing in college. Okay. And this is back in the 90s that they're done, but I just haven't gotten the courage to publish them. So,
I've sent
well,
her to my editor. She has my editor's name and contact. And I was actually talking to her today and I
mhm.
said, my co-host, she has your info.
Okay. I'll
She's
definitely.
waiting on your call.
well, if anyone can do it, Heather, it's you. So
It is.
definitely, and definitely, your co-host is trying to help. What are you
I
doing?
know. She's been trying to help me for over a year now.
Right, right. It's okay to accept help. It's okay. I know how we are as
Yeah.
writers. We're
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
perfectionists. You want it this way and that way, and that's all
Yep.
fine and good. But if seeing a portion of it gets them excited and interested and wanting to back it and do what
Yep.
they need to do, then that's totally okay. Give them something that's just partially done because that's going to also, I think, give you drive to, move forward with it even further. So I expect I'm going to hear some good news about that soon,
I
right,
hope so.
Heather?
It's weird because nonfiction, no problem. I have 7 of those, with my 8th coming out later this year. But my fiction stories, I just, for some reason, I don't know.
I'm
Fiction
gonna
is
start
really
messaging Tiffany
hard.
about it and having her badger you like relentlessly about it.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
got
I
your
mean,
phone number. I'm gonna text you about it.
Exactly.
You
You guys will be my accountability partners for this project.
there you go.
Absolutely,
There you
yes,
go. But
yes.
fiction is super hard. You have to I tell people we're basically lying to you, but we have to make it seem believable. Whereas nonfiction, here's the truth. Here it
Mhm.
is.
Basically
Fiction is
lying to you. I'm gonna have to use that.
I
yes,
think I'm going to
please
make a
go ahead.
quote
That's
with a little
exactly what it
flag
is.
corrective on that one.
I haven't quite heard it put quite like that before, but I like it so much that, and of course, I'll give you credit. Dr. Tiffany Frazier says we're lying. No,
100%. 100%.
I
But we
love
have
it.
to make it sound good and it has to also be believable, even if it's fantasy. You have
A,
to make your audience believe that what they're reading is happening on the
a
page.
detailed lie, a very well thought
Yeah,
out lie.
Yep.
yes. And that's what makes it so hard.
Mm-hmm. One that if you were telling in real life, you would get caught because there's so many details and you'd probably forget them as you go.
That's
Yeah,
true.
don't do that. Don't do that because people are
It's the
waiting to
beauty
trip
of
you up on
editing
that.
too.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Oh, I've had my hand at doing that this year where I edited someone else's work that wasn't anything I was involved in. I was like, okay, well, we're
Oh,
on edit 15. And then I start having my eye twitch, and I'm like, okay.
wow, that's a lot. 15? That's
It
a
was
lot.
it was worth it. I'm sure we'll get into that
Yeah.
project later. That was the one that I just finished
Okay.
working on with Kevin Rosinski, who was on that one
Okay.
before. So
I
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So to steer back to the haunted theme, I'm always the one to steer everything back to the haunted theme. What haunted location do you either want to film in or write a story about? Yeah, the questions
Actually,
aren't getting any easier.
no, they're not, but that's okay. It's par for the course with you. So I mean, they'll get progressively lighter, but not too much, just to give me hope, right?
Right. And then we go back to the
So
hard ones.
so I kind of already wrote one about a place, but I definitely want to go visit the place in person. So Whispers in the Woods, I wrote, and I set it in a fictional place, but this is a very real occurrence that happened. So that story is like a Southern Appalachian ghost story gone wrong. Like it's like a ghost story mixed with like a slasher. But what makes it special for me is it answers the question that I've had my whole life: what the hell happened to those colonists in Roanoke? You
Yeah.
know, I want to visit that. I want to
Mm-hmm.
go where they disappeared, where Virginia Dare was the first
Baby.
baby
Right.
born in America from
Mm-hmm.
overseas, from England. And then the governor, John Smith, coming back over and nobody being here with the word Croatoan scratched into a tree and no sign of any of those colonists.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking whether they were absorbed by the, local Indian tribe, which is what the old legends used to say, or I've heard some say, oh, well, a UFO was passing by and happened to see these folks and just snatched them all up. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting theory. Okay. To Bigfoot, to you know, mutiny within themselves, madness, and somebody killed off one of the others, and then it kind of just became like an effect of where that happened over and over again. So I would like to go visit where that actually was. Now, in my book, I set it in North Carolina because Roanoke at the time they called it Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
but the where it is now and where it was then are two different places.
Yep.
So I want to visit that certainly, and then I would say to visit Morristown, Tennessee, the cabin where they shot the first Evil Dead movie, but there's not a damn piece of that cabin left. Over the years, there was a weird, mysterious fire, and it burned, and then, of course, there's been rumor that that people come by and they pick up pieces of leftover cabin to add to their collections, for film stuff or that's something local. And then I lived out by the Bell Witch Cave and by John Bell's plantation for years in Adams, Tennessee, and I've never visited that. So that's just kind of a couple of close places. I would like to visit the Flannan Isles Lighthouse though, where those disappearances happened in 1900. There's three lighthouse keepers nowhere to be found, and there's a meal prepared on the table, and it looked like something happened, and they all went to investigate, and then just they got swallowed up by the earth, is the way it looks. So I think some interesting stuff like that, but definitely those would be my top places for haunted locations to visit.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'm gonna ask this question because I had this happen to me. When people found out what I was getting into, that I joined the paranormal investigations team, and then I went to metaphysics school and everything, and people were like, "Who are you?" Like, this is so out of left field because for so long I kept it a secret that I was really into the paranormal. My husband knew because we kind of bonded over that while we were dating, because that was just our thing, because all the shows were new and but do you ever have or find yourself like in a situation where you tell people what you do for a living and they're kind of like, well,
It's happened in the past. Most of the time, no. People are really interested in it.
mhm,
There has been some cases where people have seen some of my films and they're like, "Oh, that's really disturbing. I don't know how to, like feel about that." So it's like I try to take all that into like consideration whenever I introduce myself to someone and they when they learn about who I am. Of course, I'm meeting people now that I've never met before, and they've been following me for years, and like my career, and they know. And it really puts it into perspective. And I'm like, whoa, because you having done all these different things, it's like, well, surely, you know, you kind of think that, well, is it really that big of a scale? And then you find out it is, and you're like, shit, that is a huge scale. But yeah, there's been some cases like that where it's when I've told people what I do, they're like, "Oh, really?" And then oftentimes it intrigues them. They want more detail, and then
mhm,
I open the floodgates. And my problem is controlling the amount of the flood that comes through the gates. Therein lies the problem because you can
yeah.
over detail your stuff too much to the point where they're like, "Oh, that was great," and as they're slowly moving out of frame, right? But most of the time, it's people are very, very welcoming and very excited about it. That's why I keep doing these conventions because every time I do one, it's like my table. The last one I did it was the first time I'd ever done this event, and I had like a 2.5 hour long line.
That's awesome.
I
Mhm.
looked and I was like, I'm really hungry, but this is going to have to wait. There I go with the food thing again. To put that in perspective, I'm 6'5", so I'm kind of a big guy. And I do stay hungry a lot. And I tell people it's like I used to joke with them. It's like when you buy my autographs, you're helping me buy shoes. I have a size 15 foot, and it is
Wow.
very, very, very hard to find shoes in my size.
Mhm.
So whenever I find a pair, I feel like I've made it. You know,
Well,
this
when
year
me
I
and
got
Heather
two
come to see
pairs
you at a
this year.
convention, we're gonna bring you lunch.
Yes.
There you go.
Only if we can skip the line, though.
That's
Yes, you
true.
can. I will make
We have
sure.
lunch.
I'll be like, you see those two? They're doctors. They come up here right now. Right? I'm gonna do that. They've got a PhD in awesomeness. They can come up front, right? Absolutely. We should do that. I'm going to hold you two to that. We need to get together and do something.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Yep. Yeah.
100%.
Tiffany, I hope you have another question because I'm going to jot off camera real quick for a moment, but I will be right back.
Oh,
So
no.
hopefully you have another
I can
question
She's
ready
going
find
to
for
one.
him.
send that stuff to your editor. That's what she's doing.
That's what she better. I think
I'll be
Gina
right back.
might be watching tonight, actually.
Oh, no pressure. No pressure.
No
Yeah, no
pressure at all. I'll be right back.
So, Blake, I was telling you yesterday when we were chatting real quick online that I took a look at your YouTube channel. You're also a composer. I mean, you're an amazing musicianist. Um, what inspires your music?
Oh, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate that you took time to, go look at that YouTube channel. I haven't been very active on it lately because of the nature of doing all these
Mhm.
films and being so busy with all these books and all this other stuff. But I mean, when I was doing it more regularly, I was really, really excited to like put new stuff out. And well, thank you for the compliments on the music stuff. My father was a professional guitar player, and he toured around and did some stuff with like some rock groups and some other groups and stuff that he worked with. And I kind of inherited my love of the guitar from him. So I've been playing guitar since I was 13. So it's about 26, 27 years, give or take. So that was my first instrument. And then I picked up bass and piano, and I can play mandolin and do some drum stuff. And I sing. So you probably heard some of my singing
Yeah.
stuff too. But it's just like my inspiration for that is I grew up like, again, I mentioned I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. Uh, Van Halen,
Hmm.
Dokken, George Lynch, Mr. Big, Nirvana. Nirvana is such a huge influence to me. Alice in Chains. As far as like playing stuff, because I don't sound anything like the grunge stuff. I'm more in line with what a lot of my lot of fans that see me that are younger fans are like, oh, you play a lot like Bullet for My Valentine or Killswitch Engage or some of these like metalcore groups. I'm like, that's really cool because I like that kind of, I like that kind of music. But it's like as far as like big inspirations, I would say probably the band Boston.
Uh-huh.
Their 1976 album with Barry Goodrow and Brad Delp and Tom Schultz, like this three guitar player attack, and like Journey. Like I love the composing part. I love a good melody. And to
Yeah.
me, melody is everything. And I always make sure that every one of my songs has a melody, but they don't sound the same. I think that's something that a lot of people are they like is that you can apply that approach to a lot of different styles of music. And while you have the same style, the songs don't necessarily sound the same. Like one of my favorite groups, on the lighter side of things, Goo Goo Dolls,
Hmm.
and they're known for really odd guitar tunings and lots of like acoustic bass stuff now. But when they started, they were like, if you go watch Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, they're like the opening of that film, the opening credits, their music, and it's like some hard rocking stuff. I'm like, they did a complete like shift in like sound and dynamic, and I like that. So I'm constantly trying to like experiment and do different genres. I've done metal, I've done hardcore, I've done punk, I've done acoustic instrumental stuff, bluesy stuff. I sent you some stuff
You
yesterday.
did. Yeah.
Um, and some of that's more punk pop kind of stuff like These Lies, and then some of it is like Resurgence, where it's just like straight up guitar, drums. Just it's like almost like an instrumental tour de force. So it really just depends on the mood and what I'm wanting to do. And it doesn't help that I have like half a dozen guitars and they're all tuned to something differently, and all these random effects and stuff that I have around the house and in my rig. But just good rock and roll, good music, blues, definitely some Motown, acoustic stuff, a little bit of country inspiration as far as like chord progression changes. So I'm kind of influenced by everything, but rock is kind of where I consider myself home. And and that was a change for me because when I was touring, it was a metal band, and this is what they did. It was like they screamed and yelled and growled into a microphone, and then like the choruses were super sing song type choruses that were very anthematic and beautiful, and then the verses were like, it's like, oh, okay, so we're going to do that now. So I had to learn on the fly. This is what these guys want to do, and being on the road on the tour bus with three or four other guys and trying to keep everybody happy is a job in and of itself. The music be damned. It's like, how do I survive being with these people?
Yeah.
And how do they survive being with me? Because they were wanting to party and go out and hang out, and I was happy to sit on the bus with the guitar and like my headphones into an amp and work on that next big single because that was what I wanted. I wanted us to be successful, and when we put out our record and we were selling, 1,000, 2,000 copies a month, like right out of the gate, the first couple of months out, I was like, we got something here. Stick with it, and then we grew and put out a music video, and I was like, so I kind of helped steer them more towards a melodic approach. And then when I retired from that and the band kind of, fizzled out and broke up, um, I went back to rock and roll just in like alternative rock and just rock based music, stuff that I would have been considered too light for them. Um, and just kind of made my home there. So that is the
Yeah.
long and short version of that
Yeah.
answer for that question.
That was great. If you guys have a chance to go and see and check out his YouTube channel, I definitely encourage you to do so because his work is really, really great over there. And I
Well,
was
I
listening
appreciate
to a
it.
lot of it, and I was actually no, I mean, seriously, I was listening to it, and I was like, I'm also, I'm a writer, so I can envision things in my head. And I'm like envisioning different scenes from like, just stories were coming to my mind as I was listening to your music, because it just kind of had, I don't know, it just kind of, at least for me, it did something in my brain where it just triggered something. And there's a lot of feeling in your songs too, even the instrumentals. There's a lot of depth there that I really do appreciate. You don't really find that very often. Because people are just trying to give audiences, what's hot and what's in right now. But it seems like for you, you're just like, this is what I'm feeling. That's what I got from it. This is what I'm feeling, and this is what I'm going to write, record. I'm not, my daughter is a musician. I know nothing about music, but I can't tell a chord from a key, but you know, um, that's just the kind of take I got from listening to all your the different videos that you have up there. So
Well, I appreciate that, and I do. It really means a lot that it moved you on that level where you felt like you could almost see a story playing out. It's almost like I said, being a writer is never going to escape me. It's like even when I try to step away from a pencil and paper or a laptop and pick up a guitar, it's like all I did was change the medium. The writing part didn't go away. So it's like
yeah.
it's just a way to, I guess, put it out there. And there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of things in my life that I wish had been done differently, and music is like very therapeutic for me. And um, it just feels like if I can make that connection with another person, they can feel what I'm feeling without having ever, spoken with me or ever seen me play a
Mhm.
song live or whatever, then I feel like I'm doing my due diligence with the music. And I put the music out not because I'm expecting any kind of, like appreciation, because in the music business can be fickle. You can be the greatest band ever and people still stay unsigned. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stories of people that have been, musicians for years and they're still out playing street corners. So it doesn't always happen for everyone in the same way. But now it's not about the record deals and the touring and the fame. It's about putting out what I like, and this is the same kind of stuff I wish I could have put out when I was with the other band, but it just the nature of what I play and what they wanted were like night and day. And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to trying to keep everyone happy, in this kind of democratic kind of situation where everybody has a vote in the band, and you might have brought two great songs, but they may only like one of them, and then you might have heard two or three others they have that sound like complete noise to you, but
Mhm.
that they like them and that there's a market for that too. So it's kind of like
Right.
bartering, give and take,
Yep.
and I like that the music like resonated with you and like touched you on that level. So I'm very, very happy. I was initially very nervous to send it to you and to send it to Heather when she and I first met, because at that point in my life I wasn't really pushing the music stuff. I had taken a step back from it, and literally I'm probably one of the most prolific musicians that you'll ever meet. Like on my computer right now, I have 5 or 6 hours worth of music that's never been heard. It probably never will be. It's there
Mhm.
because
Just
it was
like
doc
writing.
right, right. And
Yeah.
it documented a place and a point in my life and a place, in a time. And maybe one day, maybe not. I put out a song called So Far Away. That one is actually up on YouTube. That one I almost didn't put out. My best friend, one of them, was murdered in 2020 in my
Mm.
hometown, going to take a friend of ours from high school, a former friend of ours, to get groceries, and he was shot in his driveway
Mm.
and killed, with his 3-year-old son in the house asleep. And that song I had been working on for a while, and when he died, I put the guitar down and I contemplated not even picking it back up for the longest time. Like I would look at it and I would just fucking weep. I just didn't even want to see it. It just because he played guitar too, and it was my first band was with him, and it's just like this is too fucking much. I can't right now. So I stepped away, and then I talked to his mom, who's like a mom to me, and I said, "Mom, I want to put this out. How do you feel? Are you okay with me putting it out?" And she said, "Yes," but I sent an instrumental version of it to her, and they played it at his funeral. I was
Mm.
unable to go because that was the pandemic had hit, and they had isolated a bunch of things out here, and there had been some like potential exposure to the virus. So I was like, I'm not going to go to a funeral and potentially make everyone else sick. That's not what I'd want
Mhm.
to do. So I sent that to them. I had someone stop and pick it up. I put it on CD. Actually, I went old school and like recorded it and put it right on CD, and they played it. And when I heard it, I just, without the words, I was like, "This is going to be rough. This is going to be the hardest thing I've ever put out." And then I put words to it, and then I sent it to her, and she loved it. And I was like, "If you're okay with it, I'll put it out." But I haven't put out another one like that since, because it's too dark of a place, and
Mhm.
it was hard. So I battled a lot with myself on putting that one out. But it's the same way with writing books. If you pick up any of my books, anything that was put out post 2020 has got a dedication to him in the back of the book, and that's sort of my way of honoring, his memory. And again, that's always hard to write too, but it just it's my way of honoring his memory and like keeping that friendship alive, because I'll never get that back. So again, music is very good about being therapeutic and doing stuff like that, but sometimes it's hard. And that one was very hard to put out, but everybody really liked it, and so I put it out there, and it feels like therapy.
Mhm.
So real quick, Anton made a post. I'm assuming something that you guys were talking about while I was gone. But he said, do a story about Miss Molly's in Fort Worth. That place is amazing. I haven't physically been there myself, but it was built in 1910, and it was a former prim and proper house turned bordello, and it's now a bed and breakfast.
What a
Wow.
transition! What a change! I love it.
Yes,
That
So
is
when I come out there, we're going, right?
exactly. Yep. And that's about 2 hours from where we're at. So,
Okay.
yep.
I think it's more than 2 hours from where I'm at.
Me too.
Damn it!
I'm in Georgia.
You're in Georgia?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm in Tennessee, so we're not that far apart.
We got to get
Maybe.
Heather back out here.
Oh,
She just left Florida.
I like it out here.
oh. So how was that call with the editor that you took while you were gone?
It went great. It
Oh,
went great. I will call tomorrow. I'll be in Austin in
tomorrow.
the morning, but I'll send an email because I probably won't be back until late afternoon. But yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, at least that's something. That's a win.
yep. So, quick question. This is something that I just recently thought of, and it's something I've never asked you before.
Oh
But
boy.
I know this, and they're not getting easier. If you could hunt any fictional or real world location as Freddy Krueger, where would it be?
Oh wow. Probably you said fictional or real?
Right.
I would probably haunt the real house where they filmed the original.
Okay.
Because why the hell not?
Right.
There
It's
you
right
go.
out there in the middle of. It's on Genesee Avenue. It's right out there, not far from Santa Monica Boulevard. It's right there. And the house has not substantially changed appearance in years. Like it still has the roof, and like you could tell looking at the house, that's the Elm Street house,
Mhm.
without question. So that probably would be a place I'd want to haunt. But God, what a terrible thing to have to be Freddy Krueger. Ugh.
So, if you could hunt any location as yourself, where would it be?
If I could haunt any location as myself, probably the house that I'm in right now.
Mhm.
Just because, like, this was the first, time that I moved really away from civilization. Like, I mean, I'm, about an hour away from the major city, Nashville, and it was just too crowded. A lot of crime, a lot of really bad traffic. And it's just like I feel like this is the perfect place for me because I've written so many books here, and like this feels like it's my home, but it feels like a hub for me to be creative. Like it channels things in me. It used to be like an old farmhouse, and it got converted into like a residence. So um, it's one of those things. I mean, it's got some interesting qualities about it. And I think that it fits me. This is the house that I was living in when my career took off and I became that guy. It's like, well, that's that guy's house. I'm like, maybe that guy haunts that house. There's a lot of that in there.
Yeah. And your answer explains why when we do paranormal research and investigations, a lot of the entities we encounter are in a place that they were comfortable when they were alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense because it's like you wonder what the attachment is with that. Because I've also, on the same subject of the paranormal thing, it occurred to me years ago. There, a lot of times, the spirits, from what I understand, they're reliving memories and they're experiencing things in that residence, but it may not be the same exact way that it was then. So, like, they're going up a set of steps that aren't there or through a door that wasn't there before. Well, maybe when they were alive, there was a door there, or maybe there was steps. So it's like they're reliving that memory, and I think that's the coolest thing because it's like wow. Seeing that, and I think the first time I ever experienced it outside of like the few locations I've talked about with you was Waverly Hills. I went on a date with my wife to Waverly Hills Sanatorium. I know, what a fucking date, right?
I would love that.
We wanted to go, and the stories and the presence and the energy I felt there, the stories about, again, there was a nurse who took her own life there because she found out she was pregnant by a doctor that lived there, and the doctor didn't want to stay with her. And then there was a homeless person that was murdered in the 80s there.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, on the third or fourth floor. So at one point, there was a homeless man living there that had a dog, and there were night watchmen. This was when they were trying to take the sanatorium and maybe convert it into like more of like a hotel or like, something residential. And obviously that never went through, but they had night watchmen. They would see this gentleman on every night. He'd go through with his dog, and then one night they stopped seeing him, and they're like, okay, well, he moved on. That happens. And then they went days and days and days, and then the people working on the project came in one day and opened up the elevator, to say, this is where we want to power this. This is going to be one of the main hubs to go through all the floors. We want to remodel this so that it's safe. And he was at the bottom of the elevator shaft with his throat cut. And they killed his dog too. And his dog was down there with him. So it's like, what the fuck possessed someone to do that? And it's just like, this place has so much sadness in it. But it's amazing because like I caught some stuff, and I've never been a skeptic. I've always kind of been the Fox Mulder, of like this kind of stuff. I've always kind of believed and wanted to believe in these kind of things. But seeing it in person, like, cemented that to me that there is something beyond this coil. I mean, there is no other explanation that I can come up with that is in the realm of reality that would explain what I saw and how I felt and the energy. Because that energy, whether you believe in life after death or whatever it is, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's just transferred. And I feel that in these places. Like, you feel the energy these people left behind, and it's remarkable. And it can be sad, and it can be scary, and it can be terrible, but it's amazing that something of them still survives.
Yep. Yeah. I had the luxury of filming there for a TV show last year.
Really?
And yes, it still hasn't aired yet because it's they're still working on my episode, but it's for Haunted Discoveries Family Spirits. And I was there with Brandon Albus and Mustafa and his whole crew, and what an amazing place.
It is. It is about, I want to say, 2 hours from me.
Okay.
And so I'm very, fairly close, but it was worth it to go. And like, literally, when I say this place is a hotbed of activity, I can't stress that enough. If you go, you're going to, and you're open, you're going to see something. If you go and you approach this with like, there's a chance, you're going to see something.
Even if you're not looking for something, you're going to encounter something.
Absolutely. And it was remarkable. And I want to go back. I haven't been back since then. That was 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. But it stayed, the memory, like, I'll never forget the way that I felt when I walked into the place. And it's like, some things really happened here, and like I feel it. And like the tunnel where they used to carry the bodies out, like you feel that. And like some of the stuff is still there, like the morgue tables and some of the other equipment. It's like this is a relic from the past, and there's emotion and memories and energy attached to that,
Yeah.
so it's like it's remarkable. I highly suggest if anyone out there hasn't been and you're in the
Yeah.
area, it's in Louisville, Kentucky. Please take some time and you won't be disappointed.
No, no. And I like the view from the top, from the roof, because we actually went up on the
Absolutely.
roof and took a break up there. Beautiful view.
It is beautiful. I don't think I made it up to the roof. I made it up to I want to say the fourth floor where they had the caged in area
Okay. Yep.
where they would
Yep.
get fresh air, get to the
Hmm.
patients. And it even from up there, it's so majestic, and you can see the tree line and the lush, forestry around. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, I'm going.
She's sold.
It's like it's moved way up here on my list.
Yep. That's where we can film our next live episode.
Oh, and
Awesome. Yes, let's
if
do
you're
it.
filming something out there, call me.
Yes, for sure.
We'll make it happen.
Speaking of energies, when you're writing or composing, whether it's something more dark or not, do you feel like where your head is at that point, whatever you're putting down on the page or composing at that time, do you feel like that can attract negative energies or good energies?
I think it actually can attract a bit of both. I think for me, it's kind of equivocal thing. So, like when I write some of my darker things, um, it does definitely put me in a darker mindset, and to have to channel this out because I've written some pretty brutal things. It's like if this was a different time, people would be looking at me as being the serial killer in the neighborhood or something. I could like see that in a certain time that this would be something most people would not be okay with, or it would definitely give them pause. So I think that it can give negative energy in that you're trying to convey that emotion because you want your writing to feel authentic. You want the reader to feel what you felt when you wrote it because we as writers we feel connected to the pieces like it's an extension of
Mhm.
ourselves. At least that's how I mean that's how I feel about it. It's a part of me, and it's never going to disappear. That's going to be what I leave behind when I do pass from this world is the what's on the written page there, and that'll stand long after I've fallen. And I think that's a monumental thing, and I think that's something all writers should think about when they put something out. It's out in the world now; it's out there. That's something to be proud of. And I think that the other part of it, the positive energy, is it propels you to get through that part with as much authenticity as you can, so that you can look forward to the next part. And each
Mhm.
part that you finish get you towards that goal, which is the end of it. I mean, where you want to, your conclusion, where you want to stop. And I think that it's a positive and a negative. And I think that depending on how you apply that principle, it definitely works out because when I put myself in really dark places, the readers can feel that. And when I put myself in places that aren't so dark, the readers feel that too. But it's the ability to put both of those together in the same work that
Right.
really pulls on the heartstrings, for lack of a better phrase, on of the reader, because you want them to be fully engrossed in what you're writing from page one to the end, and you don't want to lose them. So you want to pull out all the stops, and I think that putting yourself in those places helps you achieve that goal.
Yeah, I agree.
And you do mention that you do a lot of dark work, which is obvious from watching and some of the stuff that you've done. How do you not allow that to filter in to your day-to-day life, or how do you bounce back and still be positive? Because you're a very positive person considering all the darkness.
Thank you. I mean, I try to be. I mean, there are times, where it's like, but most of the time, I just once I put a workout, I feel like I've completed a project. I feel like I've put a representation of myself out there, and I feel like okay, that's something to add to my portfolio. It shows maybe a little bit more of my range that wasn't something that someone could see before. And I try to separate my art from me because I mean the fans know me as oh he's the Freddy guy, he's the guy that wrote the Whispers in the Woods. He's the Loch Ness Monster guy. He's that guy with the nightstick. He's that psychopath. He's this, he's that. But then I go home and I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a friend. Um, and it's, you know, I embrace that life outside of it. It puts it into perspective because to me, that's one thing that I found when I was in college. I got addicted to watching Dexter, and that's something I always felt Dexter Morgan tried to find the balance in, and like the whole show, he's trying to find that balance, balancing this life, this appearance versus his after hours activities, or whatever. And the one of the things he follows in there is he tries to live to his father's code. It's like fake it, fake it enough, and you'll start to believe it. But in my case, it's like I don't feel like I'm faking it. I feel like I can separate that part of me. Well, a perfect example, the last event that I went in and set up my table and got my banner and everything was put up and all that. And before that, I was just walking around looking at the vendor table, seeing what everyone had, looking at records and comic books and stuff, and just being a normal guy. And then once the doors open and I sit behind the table and those fans line up, that's when it changes. I become that person for them, which is fine. But they're also very understanding that there is more to me than that, because I'll sit and I'll chat sometimes with someone that's just bought a book and bought autographs. I'll talk to them about they've got, an issue in their yard and they're trying to figure out why water is like pooling up in one particular area of the yard. Is their property's not even, or, they've got a graduation to go to, or they want to propose to their partner and don't know how to quite do it, or they want to learn to play guitar but don't know if they should spend the money on this brand or that brand. Like, it feels like I can still be me outside of the table, but still be me, you know, and also the version of me that they want to see at the same time. That balance, and I think that's important. So, I mean, I try to separate myself, and like when I go to family gatherings, inevitably there's someone at the gathering and like, oh, what's up with that latest project? And 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I've got one in the works, and then I move right on to something else. I don't want to linger on it. I work on that when it's time to work on that, but I try not to live that work all the time. I try to have a balance. And my wife is also very good at helping me put that into perspective, because there were times I would start writing at 6 or 7 o'clock at night and not finish till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And she's
Mhm.
like, "You're not sleeping enough. You're missing out on things. Try to balance it, you know." And she has definitely been a blessing to being one understanding, and two to help me understand that it's okay to be something else outside of what I am at those tables and in these movies. And I'm not just an actor, not just an author, not just a composer or producer or a screenwriter or whatever. I'm Blake. I'm just me. I'm just some guy. I'm your neighbor. I ordered a pizza. I checked the mail. I went outside and watched my kids play. I took a walk. There's more to me than all that, and I try to just balance that for myself, because it's important. Because there are days that when I'm on a film set, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's time to work. But then when it's not time to work, I'm so excited. Like when I can just sit and like work on a piece of music or just watch something on TV. Like been watching Dragon Ball Z, which is not something I've totally missed all that before, but I have a son that likes that. So I've spent some of my downtime watching those animes and cartoons with him, and like still, you know, living a life. So it's important. And it's funny because they tell all their friends. I'm like, don't tell them. Oh, my dad, did you see that my dad worked on it? I'm like, don't, because all that's going to do is make them want to ask me questions, and I don't want to talk about it. I want to be just a dad. I want to be just a dad in a room, watching you play and have fun. I think part of that's trying to live vicariously through them is because I didn't get to have a childhood like that. I didn't get to go outside and play and do fun stuff and have like those rites of passage that a lot of children and teenagers have. It was just not that way. It was a lot of physical abuse, a lot of mental abuse, and a lot of isolation. And I think that's what drove me to seek solace in all the scary stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a terribly long-winded answer.
It's okay. I actually tell my daughter the same thing. I'm like, don't tell people what I do. And it's not because it's for different reasons. It's more of like she's only 13, and I don't want people to be asking her questions, especially at school. So I'm
Yeah.
like, they don't need to know.
Well, and
Unless
it's
they
like
like
even
specifically ask. If they ask me, it's different. But you don't need to go around telling people that mom
And see, at
is a
that age, I was
paranormal
bringing my son
investigator.
on investigations with us.
Well,
So
it's,
She
to
she
each
wants to
teach
come
their
so
own.
bad. She wants to come so bad, but I'm like, we're gonna wait a few more years.
Well,
So
that's just like with all the Freddy stuff, and me working on that fan film with Dark House Entertainment. I had some gloves built for the movie, like real functional Freddy gloves, razor gloves, and like my kid wants to show all his friends. I'm like, no, because inevitably someone's going to get hurt. Like I keep them with me, like they're always here, but it's like it's not a toy. It is something that
yeah,
if you're not careful could put your eye out. And it's like all they see is it's cool. Oh, your dad's
yeah.
cool. I'm like, no, I'm really not. I'm weird, interesting, strange, and I just happen to make a career out of it.
I have a
Uh,
question for you.
is it about that
I just
editor?
Is it about what?
The editor I'm picking on. I'm looking.
Oh,
I'm looking at Heather
I
while,
don't
while I
yeah,
say
I
that.
don't see Gina. Gina, are you on here? I don't see you.
I haven't seen her name pop up, so
Okay.
Okay, so what's your? I was just trying to be funny. What's your question?
you guys aren't going to let that go, are you? So I guess I need to get working on
No,
it.
no.
Right, we're
I lost
helping.
it. I'm looking for it. Hold on.
Accountability is the name of the
Accountability.
game, right?
Oh my gosh, I just had it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the really good one I had. Where did it go? Oh, okay, here, I found it. Have you ever written a scene that seemed purely fictional only to later encounter something eerily similar in real life?
A couple of times. So the weirdest one, because I always like to lead with that. The weirdest one was after I started writing. I was about 9 years old. I entered in something my school had. It was called the Writers Showcase of America. One of those things. It was the '90s, and my teachers were all too, definitely like, "Oh, you're awesome. Put this out there." They were very encouraging. I appreciate it, but it's like, who's going to be into this? But I did an essay on the Loch Ness monster because it was an informal essay. They wanted something in that category, so I was like, "Cool, I'll do it." So I did it, and then I met at the reading. When I went to the place where they did it, there was, I don't remember what, John Overton High School, I think, is where they had the big reading, and I'm in elementary school, so this place seems massive. As a child, there was a lady, an elderly lady. I don't remember her name. I wish I could. She was from Canada, and she had spoken to me after I read the essay, after the essay was read, and after I met with everyone. She said that she lived in a house that bordered Lake Okanagan, which is where Ogopogo, which is the water monster in Canada, that's their version of the Loch Ness monster. She lived on the shores of that lake, and she saw things out there like ripples in the water and things going across the water when there was no boats or anything that would cause a disturbance. And she said, I always felt like there was something in that water. And it's amazing to me that you, being as young as you are, you've written something that conveys that same kind of dread, that same kind of fear, but that same kind of wonder and excitement about it. And
Wow.
it was just, she was a really sweet lady. Um, but I never got her name. And when I went to go accept my award, I came back and everyone in the room, they were all gone. So I never got to know
Oh,
who she was. I don't even remember her name, and certainly don't even know if she's still living or not. But I wrote that into Fathom and changed it and put it in Scotland as opposed to being in taking place in America, referencing the Canadian lake monster. I put it in Scotland, referencing the Loch Ness monster. The same, basically the same lady. What recollection I had of her, and put it and fleshed it out into this. And then when I was writing this book and I got to that point, I I could, for some reason, I heard her in my head. It had been years, and she was saying, "That's a good lad. You put the book out. This is what people want to read. You lived your dream, and you're still doing it, and you remember our conversation." And I had not heard that lady's voice in
wow.
well over 20 years, but it was like it was in my ear. It's like she was right
Mhm.
next to me, and it gave me the chill bumps. I had to stop for a minute and kind of like think, and it's like that was weird because I swore and will swear to this day that I heard her voice in my house, that she was in here with me because I wrote that book here. I finished it here in this living room where I'm sitting right now, and I swore she was sitting right next to me on the couch, like giving me an encouragement, telling me to finish it because I was right about an hour or two away from the last chapter, and she was just like, "You can do this, lad. You do it. You finish it. You tell them what kind of creature this is. You warn them it's not a fairy tale. This is something that you can't control." And that was the whole part of the book, was trying to say that when people investigate certain things, they like to think because they're experts, they can control the environment and the things in them when they've got an investigation going on. But that is the furthest thing from the truth, especially when it comes to a force of nature like that, which is what the Loch Ness monster is. It's not necessarily a monster in the traditional sense of something coming to get you, from under your bed or anything like that. It is a marine reptile from a bygone era that somehow managed to survive mass extinction and adapt to its surroundings, changing its biology slowly. I'm sure evolutionary, it changes, but there's always more than one, because in order for there to be one, there had to be another one before it.
Hmm.
It has to be reproduction and biological factors in there. So it's a monster in that it's something that people consider grotesque and unexplained and shouldn't exist, but it's just a creature and it's a part of nature. And every time that man as a whole, not specifically saying not man and woman, but just mankind as a whole, whenever they fool with nature like that and try to control it, it doesn't ever turn out well for them.
That's right.
So that's part of that. It's a cautionary tale. So Fathom is, one of those things, writing it and like having to put the stories together. So yeah, that lady was certainly there. And then, you know, of course, the Whispers in the Woods thing, having grown up around the South and hearing stories about, Appalachian ghost stories and places you don't venture out of dark. You don't, if you hear your name called in the forest, you don't answer back. If you hear something whistling or crying like a baby, you don't approach it. If you see a deer that stands up on its back legs and looks at you like a person, it ain't a deer, that sort of thing. And then, the missing people of Roanoke and all this other stuff, and reading about things like the Judge Crater going missing from New York and Amelia Earhart and Percy Fawcett and the Lost Expedition and all that kind of stuff. It just, that sense of wonder and fear and excitement is just something that I try to channel in all the books, whether I'm writing about a marine reptile or slasher, a possessed person, or you know um, a ghost. I want it to be something that everyone can relate to and enjoy, because it's all different stuff. That's one thing about my work, is I don't stay in one specific like type of horror. I kind of just go out as far as I can. So
Hmm. Well, now I need a copy of Fathom. So just letting you know, get some more copies.
that's so you got to call the editor, Heather, and I've got to get more copies of this. So it's on the to-do list.
Okay.
My to-do list is growing over here. No.
Yeah.
So for this next question, I'm going to actually ask you to put on your critic's hat. And I'm hoping you've seen the show that I'm going to reference, but it's new, so you might not have. But the new Monster on Netflix about Ed Gein, starring Charlie Hunnam or Hunnam.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on that show, if you've seen it? Or have you seen previews for it? Because I
I
started watching it, I got
I've
10 minutes
seen
in and I had to turn it off.
I've seen previews of it. I haven't watched it, but I've watched a lot on Endgame, and
Mhm.
I think that it's one of those, definitely, that it's kind of like with the Jeffrey Dahmer part of Monster. Like, so much of it is so disturbing and outright upsetting that I think that triggers a lot of people when they watch it. I mean, obviously, you said you made it 10 minutes in, which is fine.
Yeah. Well, I grew
You
up in Northern Illinois, so both Dahmer and Ed Gein stories ran rampant in our area.
Yeah.
So I knew the stories very well.
And I think what makes it so scary for a lot of people is those killers lived until fairly recently. Ed Gein died in '84, and Jeffrey
Mhm.
Dahmer died 10 years later in '94. So
Yeah.
they were within our lifetime. I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper, or the Zodiac, or any of those others, where it's like so far removed because it didn't occur during your lifetime. I mean, even in my lifetime, it's like when I was born, like Ed Gein had just died the year before or whatever, and then like Jeffrey Dahmer was still killing. So it's like trying to put that into
Mhm.
perspective.
Yep.
I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen it. I've heard, of course, everybody's going to have their own review of something, which is fine. His story is very disturbing, and I think what's so heartbreaking about it is the lack of love that he received as a child. It does
Mhm.
not excuse what he did, but
Right.
Right.
the unstructured, like the complete like destruction of his childhood and like his home life. I mean, his mother married way too young. I mean, way, 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 way too young. And then he had this unhealthy like obsession with his mom, which again we see that echoed in Psycho. We see
Mhm.
that echoed in like some of the echoes of that in like Silence of the Lambs with James Gunn,
Yep.
Buffalo Bill, and then like and other killers and other like movie things like that. Leatherface, there's like all in the whole taking faces and body stuff. That obviously was something that they influenced. I'm sure there was an influence of Ed Gein in there because again, that was something that was so shocking and just outright upsetting in that time. You're talking what it was Plainfield,
Yep.
Wisconsin in like the 40s and 50s, and that was just
Mhm.
not. You just didn't think stuff like that happened. But that's what makes that kind of stuff that much more interesting and scary is because he just looked like the guy that lived next door. He could be your uncle. He could be your granddad. He could be your
Yep.
cousin. But and you'd go visit him and have a meal or go have a beer or go fish. But then you think, well, what's he do when he goes home? He skins
Mhm.
people. He kills them. He takes parts of their body and turns it into home decor. He does all this other stuff, and it's like
Yep.
it makes him seem like more than a person, like a
Mhm.
monster. So I get
Right.
it. So I mean,
Yep.
I definitely
Yeah.
understand that. But
Yeah. It was good, but I just knowing the stories growing up and hearing all of that, and then watching one of my favorite actors actually take that role and run with it. It was like, this is scary. This
Yeah.
is
It definitely
freaky.
speaks to how good of an actor he is,
Right.
certainly. I
Mhm.
mean, to be
Yeah.
able to take himself, and that's something I think that um, is important. I read an interview with Robert Englund once. This was many years before I ever knew him, but he had said that one of the things that he thinks got him the job on Elm Street as Freddy was just that he was such a nice, affable person, but he was willing to go into that dark place as an actor, and Wes kind of saw that. So and embraced it because he thought that was something important. So I really think that speaks to Charlie's
Mhm.
skill as an actor, but definitely also to the filmmakers because that's again those subjects they're just as upsetting now as they were then. That part of it's not changed,
Yep.
and it's like what's next. I've heard they're supposed to be doing one on Lizzie Borden,
Yep.
Oh, wow.
so again we've got all these other things. Now, there's a place I wouldn't mind visiting
Mhm.
Yeah.
in Fall River. The play they turned it, I think, into a bed and breakfast, and they kept the furniture the same. The couch that Andrew
Mhm.
Mhm.
Jackson Gordon was murdered on
Yep.
is still
Mhm.
in there. You can sit on it. It's like I don't know how
Mhm.
to feel about that.
Yeah, I know.
It's like it's like
As
I kind of
paranormal
want to sit on the
investigators, we're
couch,
like,
but
"Okay, let's sit
yeah, it's
down.
like
Let's
it's
Yep.
like
pull out the spirit box and see what we can get."
it's like, do you want to sit on the couch? You want to sit on the couch, and then part of it's like, do you really want to sit on that couch? Really?
I wanna sit on the couch.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I know, I know. This is why some friends are like, "Ooh."
Oh yeah.
well,
No,
that's why we all get
I'd be
along
first one
great.
there.
Right here. We're three peas in a pod here. I mean, we this
Yeah,
is this would probably make some people distance themselves from us, but this brings us together. So it's like that
Right.
dichotomy, you know.
Yep.
absolutely, 100%. There are other people like me. I feel seen.
You're not alone in the world.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, let's grab another question here.
Yeah, I'm in the hot seat tonight, but I'm
Ooh.
loving it.
Here's one. Do you think the boundary between imagination and the spirit world is thinner than we realize?
I think it can be.
Mhm.
I think it depends on the circumstances. I think it depends on what you do, where you go, what you interact with. If you go sit in the bed and breakfast in Fall River, Massachusetts, where the Bordens were murdered, chances are probably excellent that you're going to feel some kind of something that you didn't feel before you walked in the door.
Mhm.
And I think that's just part of it, like your body's way of having almost like form of deja vu. It's like it puts you back in that spot, even though you were never there. Like you didn't live during that time, you didn't experience those events, but being in that place channels some kind of deep collect kind of memory, Um, and as just people, I think people, if they open themselves to the possibility, they can experience all kinds of things. I remember years ago hearing about a gentleman that was, I don't remember what he did for a living, but he was convinced that he had channeled the spirit of Thomas Andrews, the builder from the Titanic,
Hmm.
who
Wow.
went down with the ship. And it's like, that was, and I believed him because it's like, of all the people to say that you've channeled, to channel that particular figure, because there was a lot of it. I think at the time there was a lot of misconception about exactly who he was, what he did, and the circumstances surrounding his death. He never made it off the ship, and that was a choice. He made a choice. He felt guilty. He went down with the ship.
Hmm.
He felt that there weren't enough lifeboats, and he didn't push harder for more to be put on there. It was a matter of safety versus vanity, and like this, he was just torn between what he felt he needed to do to get the ship out, and what he felt he needed to do as a person to protect these people, and he felt that he failed. And I don't blame him, but he blamed himself, and people are hardest on themselves, and I think that the
Hmm.
fact that this guy felt like he channeled that, because even as a kid, there was like interviews with people where he would randomly say certain things to them, and it's like he was a kid, he had no knowledge of what he was saying other than it was something he heard in his head, and it was stuff about the ship that probably only people like Thomas Andrews would know. And then the whole thing with Morgan Albertson putting out Futility or the Wreck of the Titan, in 1898. So you're talking 14 years prior, he writes a book about a ship that sinks and kills nearly everyone on it, and didn't have enough lifeboats. And then, art, life imitated art 14 years later. I mean, the ship, it was uncanny. Like, I would have liked to have known him and been like, do you realize that you may have had some sort of tapped into some specific part of your DNA, your memory, your mind, your biology to help you predict something like this? Because he swore to his dying day that he never was considered himself a predictor of anything. But the truth of the matter is that book was published in 1898 and the Titanic sank in 1912. The ship
Yeah.
was named the Titan. The ship that sank was the Titanic. There was a few 100 feet difference in how they looked. They even had the same amount of funnels on top and the same problem. They struck an iceberg and not enough lifeboats were on board on either ship. That's too many damn coincidences. It's like one I can excuse, but we're checking off all the boxes here, and it's like,
Yeah.
is there something more to it? So I think that in cases like that, maybe, you know, the sense of, doom or being able to predict something, or, the boundary between the waking world reality and then the metaphysical world, the supernatural world, can be thin depending on the situation and the person. I think it really just depends on those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking about metaphysics, you get into frequency and energy and what kind of energy you're putting out there, especially as a collective. I have a theory. I had my kids, I started having kids 13 years ago. And so during that time, like the YouTube mom thing was super big. And there were a lot of YouTube moms at the time who were like getting into like the kind of the prepper scene and getting people kind of worked up about how you have to prep because, the end of the world could be coming and stuff like that. And then we started getting the shows of like the prepper shows and stuff like that. And then had 2020, So I think as a collective, when you get enough people on board and you're all thinking the same thing and you're putting that energy out, I think it could have some kind of effect on our current reality.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I can't disagree with that. And I also wonder, it's like, is there another version of our timeline? Like, the
Yeah.
multiverse, which the comic books and stuff hint at, you've got, Zero Hour with DC, you had Secret Wars and all that with Marvel, and then you had Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's like that. It doesn't it doesn't seem that far fetched when you think. It's like it to me. I've always tried to connect those things with the cases people find of doppelgangers in life.
Yeah.
How do you find someone that's not related to you that looks exactly like you? Are they living a version of your same life but in completely different circumstances?
Mhm.
Are you an award-winning author and they're a fucking serial killer? Or
Mhm.
are whatever the case may be. Or are you, a teacher and they're a composer or whatever. Like it's like I try to connect those things because I don't think it's as mutually exclusive. And again, everyone's belief system is everyone has a different belief system, but I really feel like things that have happened in the past, they can we see it with trends all the time with clothes, music, stuff like that, like hairstyles and like even from when I was in school, I've seen it come back. I used to wear the big what they call now trip pants, the big wide leg pants with the chains and all of that. I was a goth kid and all that kind of stuff. So I've seen that come back,
Mhm.
again now, and like that kind of music, the metal and the hardcore and the screamy stuff, and then a resurgence in like the stuff like people like The Cure and like Duran Duran and all. It's like, wait a minute, this already happened once, and now it's coming back again. So I feel like it's the same kind of thing. It's like it can repeat itself, sort of like that. What is the quote from George Santayana? People that don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Kind of that
Mhm.
whole that whole sort of mindset. So I really feel like it depends on the person you talk to, but I think it's a possibility, and I think that's the power in it, is being open to that. That it's
Mhm.
not just as black and white or clear cut as you think it is. That there may be some picture that you can't see yet, and
Mhm.
it's being open. And I think that's how sometimes we tap into our greatest strength as people, is to say, okay, well, I know this and I know that, but what if it wasn't this way? Be inquisitive,
Mhm.
question things. It's like you teach your children, something to do. Question if you read something, question it, or if you have a question, don't sit on your question. Like put it out there. Um, and it just depends on the subject, but I think that that's very valid. I think that it's a possibility. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sort of like I quote it all the time. One of my favorite shows is the X Files. The truth is out there. I mean, it is. You just have to look for it.
Mhm.
And it's like you've got Mulders and you've got Scullys, you've got some that are diehard believers and diehard skeptics, but when you can have them meet in the middle and agree to disagree or agree that this may be something that might not quite be paranormal, but might also be outside the realm of their limited understanding, I think that's when the message becomes the clearest.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly why Heather and I and all the other paranormal investigators do this job is
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to
Mhm.
bring science together in that way. Yeah.
And I applaud that, and I have so much respect for the both of you for doing that. And it's really a great pleasure of mine to have friends that are so talented and so willing to explore and put themselves out past their comfort zones and into places and situations that they may not otherwise have put themselves in. But it's for the the knowledge and the understanding, and to try to make peace with, well, this has happened, this is happening,
Mhm.
there is something outside of this. And while it may turn people's belief systems upside down, or they may question it because they don't, everyone's allowed to believe what they want, but the people that experience the things that you experience, the only that experience is unique to those people,
Mhm.
and they have
Yes.
a unique perspective on it when it does happen. And I think that that should be something that's celebrated, not something that's like, oh, they go ghosts, or oh, they're Ghostbusters, or oh, they're this, they're that. There is science behind it, but there's also an embracement on both of your parts, where there are going to be some places where the science doesn't necessarily meet up with the experience.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Like being educated, having a college degree, and having a doctorate, and all that, and you may see someone walk through a wall. Well, you saw it. That happened. I watched it. It was there. There's nothing in my book from college that explains that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it's just about being open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when the science backs up what you experience, that's even better.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. One of the things I was always fascinated about, especially with paranormal things, is like it's like the idea of, well, if you don't believe in ghosts, is it possible for your environment? Like when some people are in certain rooms, they touch certain things. Is it possible for that person's memory to be replayed on that object, for it to have
Mhm.
like a recording system, for lack of a better word, of its own, where certain things if conditions are correct and they are scientifically correct, it triggers this replay of this particular thing. Like you hear a ghost scream, or you hear a woman, or you see someone walk up something, or you touch an object and you feel a cold spot, or you feel this overwhelming sense of whatever it is you feel. Everything had to be right in that spot, in that way. Everything had to be completely cohesive for you to experience that. Is it possible, if you don't think that there are ghosts or paranormal things, is it possible that it's, metaphysical and also something outside of our realm of understanding, but a naturally occurring thing in nature? Like when they find specimens of live animals inside rocks, there have been instances of that in history, like frogs and such. Well, nature dictates that, I mean, you can't live inside a rock. You have to have air, you have to have oxygen, there's got to be carbon dioxide, there's got to be the exchange of all these things. Yet you cracked up in a rock and out jumped a frog. Well, that doesn't, your history book and your biology book doesn't explain the frog in your hand.
Right.
The rock explains it. The rock was in the rock. So it's like, I feel like people limit themselves, and they don't open their minds and broaden their horizons and understand there are things outside of the realm of what we understand as people that are there, and it's important for people to understand that.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So quick question on the horror genre right now. We've talked about it now, we've talked about the past, and how do you see it evolving over the next couple of years?
I think that just depends on the writers and who writes stuff and what stuff gets sold as far as movie things go. Even in that case, there are some books I've read that I would love to see turned into movies that haven't been turned into movies yet. Paul Tremblay's A Head Full of Ghosts. I think that would be a fantastic miniseries or movie. Again, Nick Cutter, The Deep. That was disturbing. That was what I call a mind fuck. That's what I call that book. Because it's like, what was this? What? There's all this going on under the water, and then there's all this happening on land, and then the two interconnect, and then you go into their past. And if you haven't read it, I recommend it. It is literally a what the fuck book. That's what I call it, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's amazing. I think my headset's beeping to yell at me and tell me that it's low. I'm gonna change over to my other headset. Okay, give me just a second.
No problem.
Okay.
Nope.
Let's try it the old-fashioned way. Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. I'm so sorry about that. That is the first time I've ever talked these AirPods to zero. I think that should be something I put on my wall as an accomplishment. But yeah, I think it just depends on the writers and the who wants to make movies. Like I haven't read Clown in a Cornfield, but I saw the movie. And my wife told me with the kind of stuff that you write, with it being like slasher based, I think you'd really enjoy it. So I really think that there's a lot of things out there that if they wouldn't, I just feel like new ideas should be approached. Let's not try to remake a bunch of things. Let's put some new.
Yes. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for saying that. I've been saying that for years.
And
We
it's
need
no
some-
disrespect to remakes and stuff. Like I have no qualm with you remaking something. I have no qualm with
but
that.
we need some original stuff.
There's so many books out there. Like I read listened to the audiobook version of Max Brooks's De-Evolution, the Bigfoot book. Like, holy shit. That book is frightening, and I loved every second of it. And Christopher Golden's Ararat. It's like these would make fantastic movies. I mean, if you're going to take it and make it into a movie, that's like that book. What was it? The movie Cabin at the End of the World. It was out. It was based on a book. That was amazing. And I think that it just look further out there. Like my wife and I both like Midsummer, the movie Midsummer. It's an A24 movie. And again, it's a different kind of horror, different kind of premise completely. And I love this. I love that the atmosphere plays just as much a part of the story as the characters do. And they loop all that in together, this isolationism, So
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that actually brings up one more quick question that I thought of, and then I'll let Tiffany ask one before we close out. But when it comes to historical fiction along the haunted series, kind of like Seth Grahame-Smith with the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer and his takes on the last American vampire and all of that. But have you ever thought about writing anything like that that's actually based on historical fact, but kind of goes down a whole different road?
I have certainly thought of it, but again, it's just a matter of infringing on property, like people, especially if there's any descendants left. There's that whole. It's just there's a really weird area of how to look at that. Like I mentioned wanting to do a story on that lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And in order to do that, I would have to change the names of all this stuff and again, I mean, it's something I definitely would like to do, but I mean, the historical stuff like that, where it's got historical basis, I think that's a really interesting premise and something that definitely could be used more, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, goes into more of like the stuff that I'm doing now. Like this is the first year that I haven't actually put a book out myself since 2016. So 9 years is the first year I've not put a book out. I've edited some stuff and that's fun. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that here soon, but that's the latest project I wrapped on. That was the one that had like the 15 edits that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
That was like it was like the book that wouldn't die, and the author of the book, Kevin Rosinski, he was convinced. He's like, this book's fucking haunted, man. Because of so many different things, we would have edits done, and then it'd be back, and I'm like, he would call me, and I would just do this. I'll take a breath and be like, okay, what is it now? What needs to be fixed now? But it's a great story. But again, that was getting to edit things and try things from a different point of view. I think that's the coolest thing because it gave me a break from writing and put more of the focus on making sure that I could help someone else take their incredible writing and have it in a form that they were happy with, and also have it told the way and formatted the way they wanted it formatted for maximum effect,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Blake, I guess the last question from me at least, and I know Heather would want to know this too, is what can we expect from you in 2026 or going into the new year? What do you have in the works?
I got a lot of things in the works. Definitely more convention stuff. Working on getting out to some areas I've never been in. So I'm hoping that comes to fruition soon. I've got one show booked in Bowling Green, Kentucky. It's called Vet City Con. So I'm going to be doing that. That's March 21st of 2026. Bowling Green is like 30 minutes from me. So it's not that big of a traveling thing, but I love the fans in Bowling Green. Every time I do a show there, they always show up and just make me feel so special, and I love like having that time with them. So I'm going to do some of those shows. I'm going to work on a couple other signings, and then I'm working on a new book actually, co-writing with the same person that I did the edit for, because he informed me that I'm stuck with him. So, but it's going to be this is going to be kind of like a companion to the first season of Freddy's Nightmares. So I'm back on fucking Elm Street again. I can't leave the place. So this last book was called I Was Freddy 2. And all I did was I helped him tell the story. He was Robert Englund's glove double on all the close-ups of the glove. He also doubled Robert in a lot of different sequences as Freddy. And then on the show, he was the opening credit glove, and then he did a lot of other like things when Robert wasn't going to be on set. He played Freddy, and he would also do it in makeup on occasion, like full makeup too. So this book, he was involved with Freddy's Nightmare season 1. So this book that we're working on is a companion to that, and he has a lot of amazing stories about working on the set, what it's like to work on those budgets, some of the incidents that happened, some of his experiences, and also just like a deep dive into the show, because it only ran for 2 seasons, but season 1 seems to be like the most popular season of the show. And what makes it interesting is it was broadcast really late at night, and we're talking 1980s. So stuff like Dexter while it was broadcast on like major cable stations, when it came out, that would not have held water in the 80s. That would not have been broadcast on television. I'm certain of it, because the thing with the Freddy show is they let them broadcast it, but it was always shown late at night, because late at night you're past prime time. There's not going to be a bunch of children or like people watching that are going to be watching as a family. So they were able to get away with a lot more stuff, especially story wise. I mean, they have an episode called Safe Sex, and that's like the whole premise of the show of that episode is sex related stuff, but it's set in Springwood with Elm Street and Freddy and all that. So it's the weirdest thing. And then there's other episodes that are strange. Some cool stuff. Brad Pitt, and it was one of his first television things. He was on Freddy's Nightmares in an episode called Black Tickets.
Wow.
And then Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order, she was in Freddy's Tricks and Treats. So it was kind of like a jumping off place for a lot. And I'm calling it a jumping off place, but that's probably not the right word. But it was a lot of those actors and actresses got their start in stuff like horror and like kind of jumped over. That's like with Nightmare 1, Johnny Depp, that was his first film. His first feature-length film was Nightmare on Elm Street. And he was, driven to his audition by his roommate, Nicolas Cage, which I think is hilarious. So it's like wanting to tell the story of how the show was done and some of the cool stuff that happened there. And then this book that we just finished, again, I take no ownership. All I did was edit it and help make it look pretty for him. But, getting to hear the stories of what it was like to work in film, I think it might also be informative for a lot of people that are thinking about getting in the industry. Some of the stuff they have to go to, like if they want to be an actor, if they want to be a producer, they want to get involved in film, exactly some of what what those people went through to get that done. Not to mention that there was a writer's strike during Nightmare 4. No one could really put their name on the script, and they were like ad-libbing dialogue, like right before they shot certain sequences. So it was like, kind of like guerrilla filmmaking, in every sense of the word.
Awesome.
And of course, you'll be back next October, right?
What's that?
I said, of course, you'll be back next October to be on the show, right?
Well, I'm always welcome to, definitely. I'm always welcome to make time for you, as long as you're not tired of having me.
Absolutely not. No, you're always welcome.
But I did want to make sure that I put these out there because you had been asking about Bombshell Butcher, and I wanted to make sure that anybody out there that hasn't seen the movies, because I'm working on a lot more of them this year. I've done several, and I'm producing and associate producing a lot of stuff. They're on Tubi. So the newest one that I did was called Creeper in the Woods. So I was actually an associate producer on this one, and I got to do the score too. So this one's on Tubi, or this one's on Momentu, I believe. This one is on Tubi. This is the Bombshell Butcher, which you brought up, Heather, early on. So that
I still haven't watched it, but now I'm going to have to watch it now that I know it's on Tubi already.
Absolutely. And you can also find He Comes to Kill on Tubi as well. So that's where I played really, really awful prison guard, that bag of shit security guard that's kind of, like super psychopathic. So I'm just fair warning. I'm pretty fucking repulsive in that. So, but I definitely want you both to watch it because I want to hear how those acting chops were for you. If it was believable for you. Everyone else said it's like one of their favorite parts. I'm like, I'm in that movie for like 12 minutes. I'm like, really? It's like, but they're like, it was such an introduction. Like you storming through the set with that attitude and your face, and just you use your environment. And if you look really closely, there's an Easter egg. I have a set of keys when I set that killer free. And if you look closely at the key fob, when I say my dialogue, which is, do you hear that? The alarm sounds. That's the sound of freedom. I shake the keys, and this is the sound of yours. If you look at the key ring, there's a key fob there that says that I work at Weston Hills, which is the hospital from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. So that was my way of putting Elm Street and He Comes to Kill in the same universe.
Well, I'm going to watch it with my husband.
That's cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking and sharing everything that you did and opening up, and just thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. The same to to both of you, I'm looking forward to reading more and more of those books. I'm looking forward to being told that certain editors were reached out to and other books are in the works. I'm looking forward to working. Maybe we can all get together and work on some kind of project. That would be fun.
Yeah,
And then
definitely.
Oh,
we get
absolutely.
together and do a
That'd be
ghost hunt,
awesome.
do something like that near here.
Yeah.
Holler at me, I mean, Waverly Hills is just a couple hours away, so
All right.
that could be something
Yeah.
fun. And just keep in touch with me. I'll make sure
For
you
sure.
have. You've got my contact info, Heather, and I think
Yes.
you've got some too, Tiffany. But I'll send you other info that way you can keep in touch with me too. But this was a lot of fun, and
Perfect.
thank you for both having me. And it was really a pleasure to get to see both of you together, like the dynamic. Because usually, whenever I'm on the show, it's just Heather, and Heather, you're awesome, you're great. But I love the interaction. It's very informative, but it's also very fun. You can tell that you're friends, but that you're very passionate, and it's entertaining for me, and it's also, I think, entertaining for everybody else out there. You're both incredibly brilliant. You love what you do, but you've got hella good sense of humors, and you're all about laughing and sharing experiences. And I think that's what makes this show so special.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I will definitely be in touch because I've been taking notes, and I actually, like I said, I've had you on my list to contact about some projects that I've been wanting to work on in the future, and hopefully we can get those off the ground.
That sounds like fun. And just you let me know and say the word, and I'll start setting aside time so we can brainstorm and talk about it. But I'm excited about it. And congratulations to both of you. I know you've got, what is this, book number 8 coming out, Heather, for you?
Yeah, it's Haunted Civil War Sites of Florida is coming out.
That's an amazing subject. Who doesn't want to hear about that? That's something I would sit and read before bed because I'm that kind of guy.
You know what's so interesting is so many people are like, how can Florida be in the South? It's like I've run into so many people who say that to me. So
and it was the third state to leave the Union. So they helped lead the actual exit of the Union for most states.
Yeah.
You're getting
I'm looking forward to it.
Info, and you're also getting cool historical info. I mean, it's a win-win for anybody that's interested in either or both of those things. I think it's fantastic. And then Tiffany, you've got your this is your 4th book coming out?
It's actually the 5th I've written. Yeah, but it's the 4th in the series. Yeah.
See, that's just something to be very proud of. I'm looking forward to that, and I would definitely. I want to read some of those. I mean, I'm excited anytime I hear about another author that's writing something else that's scary and like it's dark and but there's these other elements in there. It's very unique, and I'm always excited to see other works. So definitely, both of you, please keep me in the loop on your projects, and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It is a lot to write a book, and I think it takes special people to do that. So. Definitely. Keep up the great work.
Perfect. So anything else, Tiffany, before we start cutting out?
No. Does anybody in the comments have any other questions?
Hi, comment section.
Going back through, I know Antone said there's multiple stories related to Miss Molly's that we talked about earlier. Philip said regarding Freddy Krueger, the White House, where you would haunt as Freddy Krueger. Anton's first apparition was reliving his daily duties. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talk about what they were doing when people passed. They are seen, in spectral form doing something they did while they were alive. That again, it makes sense.
Yep. And I've shared your website, some information, and your YouTube channel in the chat as well. So if anyone wants anything, they can always click there. Or you could always reach out to Ghost Education 101 and we can make sure we get you the information that you need. Okay.
Absolutely. And everybody else, you have a happy Halloween. I know that's coming up soon. So get you lots of candy, and whatever you do, don't
fall asleep.
Fall asleep. But, thank you both for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you both again very, very soon.
Thank you so much. You have a great day, and I will see you next week, Tiffany.
Good night.
And I think next week you and I are actually having our Q&A. We're finishing up our Q&A from last week.
We're going to finish up our Q&A because we have a lot of questions left. So
okay, so we will see you all. Oh yes, exactly. So we will see everyone next week, same time, 9/8 Central. And other than that, you guys have a great week. And thank you again, Blake, for joining us tonight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you both.